Hi, we've got Ann Poindexter here talking about easements and right-of-ways. Looks like we're going to have a robust discussion identifying the difference. First, Ann, why don't we try to define the difference between an easement and a right-of-way?
Excellent. So an easement is really just the ability to use someone else's property for a specific or defined purpose.
Okay.
Right-of-way is very similar, except that it is generally the right to use the property for purposes of traveling. And so you hear right-of-way used when we're talking about road or highway right-of-way, or we're talking about rail right-of-way, as in trains. Those are the two most common times that you hear or someone talks about right-of-way. For practical purposes, it is most common that people have questions about or concerns about easements, because the overwhelming majority of people that own a piece of property are going to have an easement on it.
Yes.
If you look at that piece of property, it's going to have an easement on it.
So let's take a look at easements. So what types of easements would someone encounter on their personal property? And then maybe let's look at some commercial issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it depends on how we use that word, type of easements. I mean, first of all, easements can be temporary or they can be permanent. So an example of a temporary easement would be that either on a commercial property or a personal property would be that there's some construction that needs to go on, and it's taking place close to the edge of someone's property. But you know what happens when they're doing construction? It makes a bigger mess, right? And particularly if they're digging, then they have piles of dirt. Yes. So sometimes maybe that equipment or that dirt spoils need to spread out over onto your side. They'll ask you for a temporary easement during construction. So that's a common example of a temporary easement during the period of construction. So 30 days, 60 days, 180 days, whatever the construction period is, they may ask for a temporary easement.
Okay, so common situation in property is utility easements.
Yes.
Yes.
And those are permanent easements. Sometimes a utility easement will ask for both a temporary and a permanent easement if they're putting in the utility for the first time, because they'll need more room to work within for the construction.
Okay.
But if it's an existing utility easement, it's going to be a permanent easement, because those utilities are permanent services, obviously, and they're going to be permanent easements.
So in neighborhoods or on highways, if someone has a residential property, how does a right-of-way affect someone's personal property?
Most people, for the majority of people that have right-of-way on their property, it's often going to be on the front or the side.
Okay.
And so anybody that, looks at the drawing or has someone, explain to them the different limitations, legal speak is the burdens on their property, but it's really a limitation on their property. Right-of-way, they need to understand that it means that the authority for the highway or the roads has the ability to expand that paved area, because right-of-way very often extends outside the paved area.
Okay.
Sometimes it has the gravel or the granular stuff out there. Sometimes it doesn't, depending on where we're looking. But don't ever think that that road's never going to change. I mean, how many times around town have we seen roads get widened and changed? And that's what people need to understand about existing homes, but also when they're considering buying a home.
So if someone's buying a new home and maybe even a new development or an older neighborhood, what are some of the things that they can be concerned with, particularly as it pertains to their driveways, the rear of their properties, all these kind of things? Are there easement concerns that could possibly come up?
Absolutely. So I want people to look in particular first at utility easements, because whether it's a brand new home or an existing home, I want to know whether they have all municipal services. You know, there are some brand new homes that you can buy that still don't have municipal sewer and water. And for utilities, there are separations that are mandatory between utilities. And so if there's one easement on a piece of property and it's only 15 feet wide and you don't have sewer or water out there yet to the property, then it might be that they're not going to fit within that existing easement. And so you need to be prepared that there could be another easement across your property.
Okay, thank you, Ann. I knew that was going to be a robust discussion. I'm Kevin Kimbrough, LifeStyle Indy.